Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the newest, most dramatic daily updates you absolutely cannot miss. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss the latest news and plot twists from the show. The next episode of Beyond the Gates promises to be a turning point that pushes the Leslie, Bill, Nicole triangle to a level of explosion that is almost impossible to come back from, as the secret of that rainy night no longer lies still in the dark as a hidden burden, but begins to seep through every crack in Fairmont Crest. The opening setting may still be those glossy streets, immaculate gardens, and luxurious houses frozen in place like a propaganda painting about stability and morality, but beneath every blink, every polite smile, there is a network of emotions ready to detonate. Bill still appears in his perfectly tailored suit, carrying himself like a man who has spent his whole life protecting the spotless image of the community, but the calm in his eyes is no longer complete. In the hours that follow, viewers will see Bill pulled taut between two extremes: on the outside, the moral symbol of Fairmont Crest; on the inside, a man trembling at the prospect that everything could collapse because of one rainy night he keeps insisting to himself was an accident, while his heart knows all too well it was a mistake he has never truly atoned for. And what is tightening around his neck is not only memory, but the invisible hand of Leslie, the woman who walked into Crest with a fragile posture and shimmering eyes, while her mind operates like a cold strategic machine. The new episode will most likely show that Leslie is no longer content with whispering reminders of that fateful night into Bill's ear, but starts using that secret to establish a new power order inside Fairmont Crest. She will push Bill into choices that seem small yet carry massive destructive potential, forcing him to sign off on projects that benefit her, stopping him from exposing irregularities in the charitable fund she has cleverly arranged, and compelling him to take her side in crucial votes, both in the community council and in closed-door meetings where people decide who gets to speak and who is relegated to mere decoration in the room. What keeps viewers glued to the screen is not only Leslie's calculated moves, but also the inner struggle etched into every gesture Bill makes. Every time he picks up a pen to sign a document he knows is not entirely clean, he is not just betraying Nicole, but betraying the image he has so carefully built of himself, betraying all the high-minded speeches he once gave in front of the entire community. His anger is not only directed outward. It turns back on himself, so that every morning in front of the mirror becomes a confrontation in which no one wins. Meanwhile, Nicole will be the anxious heartbeat of the entire episode. She cannot explain why the atmosphere around Bill changes only when Leslie appears, why the man she once believed to be a solid pillar suddenly starts avoiding her eyes, dodging overly specific questions, and why Leslie's name appears so strangely in documents Nicole had never seen before. The next episode will likely delve deeper into Nicole's intuition, the intuition of a psychologist who is too familiar with the shadows inside other people, but this time is forced to face the fact that the one with the problem is the person closest to her. When she realizes that Bill is not only a victim being manipulated by Leslie, but is also unconsciously protecting Leslie with all his repressed guilt, her anger stops being a brief flare of emotion and turns into a slow-burning flow of lava. She is angry at Leslie for stepping into her life under a weak facade to conceal a plan to seize control, angry at Bill for hiding the truth, but deeper than that is the feeling of being betrayed by herself, because she, the one Fairmont Crest trusts for her ability to read people, is the one who noticed the storm forming in her own home the latest. From the writer's perspective, the new episode will likely use Nicole's private investigation as the main thread guiding the audience's emotions. Nicole may begin to piece together events that once seemed unrelated, donations quietly diverted from her funds into projects proposed by Leslie, accident reports from years ago suddenly locked in the hospital system where she technically has access, old names linked to the death on that rainy night inadvertently resurfacing in the words of a patient or an old acquaintance. It is in that moment that her inner conflict reaches its peak. If she keeps digging, she will have to accept the possibility that the person tied to the death of the one she loved most is not some stranger, but Bill, the man she leaned on to heal from that very loss. The story can push Nicole into a highly dramatic situation, sitting alone in her office, staring at the accident file with the victim's name, the hospital's name, and the date, and realizing that those timelines chillingly match the travel routes Bill once mentioned. She has no dialogue, yet her eyes, her breathing, the way her hand grips the edge of the desk reveal the storm raging inside her. Anger and horror mix together, transforming Nicole from someone seeking the truth into someone ready to confront it, even if it destroys everything she once believed in. On the opposite side, Leslie will step into the new episode with a disturbingly twisted kind of calm. She knows Nicole has begun to suspect something, and instead of being afraid, she sees this as a golden moment to tighten the reins around Bill while gradually striking at the close connection surrounding Nicole. The episode may show Leslie appearing in places Nicole least expects, not as a direct threat but as someone who just happens to be there at the right time. She might propose a mental health support program for residents, feigning empathy for the pressure Nicole is under as she tries to both serve the community and uphold the image of a model family. With gentle smiles and seemingly comforting, yet calculated, touches, Leslie will make other Fairmont Crest members gradually see her as a soft replacement for Nicole, who is becoming increasingly tense and distant. This is when viewers will see Leslie starting to dismantle Nicole's support system, planting doubts about her professional decisions, hinting that Nicole is letting her personal life cloud her judgment, making her look like someone losing control. While Nicole plunges into her pursuit of the truth, Leslie patiently redraws her public image, turning a potential victim into the one people suspect, a cruel but highly effective strategy. A key point in the upcoming episode will likely be the way the rainy night of the past is pulled closer to the present, not through simple flashbacks but through very concrete consequences. The person who died that night is not just a nameless figure in a file, it is someone Nicole once cherished deeply, perhaps a mentor who ushered her into the profession, someone who helped her confront her first trauma, or a lover she has never truly gotten over. As the fragments of information start to align, Nicole will be forced to face the most terrifying realization: while she was grieving, Bill remained silent, allowing her to believe in a bland accident narrative, while carrying a very different memory in his own mind. The new episode could build a powerful mirroring sequence. Nicole in her counseling room, listening to a patient describe the sense of betrayal upon discovering that the one responsible for a loved one's death was someone very close, and then Nicole herself, after closing the door, having to confront the eerie resemblance between that story and her own life. Betrayal is no longer a clinical concept but becomes a searing anger, making it impossible for her to keep playing the role of neutral therapist. She begins to turn into someone seeking justice, even if the price is the collapse of everything she once thought was permanent. While Nicole and Leslie move like two opposing poles on a power axis, Bill in the middle will be pushed deeper and deeper into psychological deadlock. The new episode may show him beginning to lose sleep, haunted more frequently by dreams of the rainy night, this time no longer buried under the excuse that he had no choice. Images of the car skidding on a wet road, headlights smeared in the rain, the sudden impact, a body falling, Leslie's scream turning into silence, all of it blending with the applause and praise he receives every time he steps onto a stage as the moral guardian of Fairmont Crest. The feeling of being a fraud will drive him toward increasingly extreme reactions. Snapping unreasonably at those closest to him, losing his temper in meetings where he once remained calm, making reckless financial decisions just to pull Leslie out of trouble, then immediately regretting it when he realizes he is burning everything down just to hide a mistake that can no longer be hidden. Viewers will see a Bill who is furious with Leslie for digging up memories he tried to bury, yet incapable of leaving her, because he knows that if she lets go, the entire world he built will come crashing down. This anger will push Bill into a difficult choice that may become the episode's central turning point. He will have to decide between confessing, accepting the loss of his image, power, position, and potentially his freedom, or continuing to let Leslie use him as a tool, trading her silence for a little more time inside the illusion of stability. Both options are forms of self-destruction, and it is this feeling of being cornered that will make his behavior increasingly negative and unpredictable. The story might let him prepare to confess to Nicole, only for Leslie to arrive at the last moment with a new document, perhaps proof that the death years ago was not solely tied to him, but also to other factors that, if exposed, would trigger a chain of scandals shaking Fairmont Crest. At this point, Bill's anger will no longer focus on one person in particular, but become outraged toward an entire system that allowed him to hide his mistake, elevated him as a symbol, and now could bury him without mercy if the truth comes out. He wants to smash everything and protect it at the same time, and that very conflict will make it even easier for Leslie to keep controlling him. In that context, the new episode will very likely use a public event, a community meeting, an award ceremony, or a fundraising gala, as the stage where the three characters face off under the gaze of all Fairmont Crest. It is the perfect setting for intense internal reactions, Nicole forced to appear composed on the outside even though she knows too much on the inside. Bill forced to stand next to Leslie, who will not miss the chance to gently place a hand on his arm as if they are on the same side, and the people around them applauding and laughing, unaware that standing under the lights are three people bound by a death that has never truly been brought to light. Viewers can anticipate a moment when Nicole catches a tiny detail, a touch, a glance between Bill and Leslie, a fragment of information mentioned in a speech, and realizes there is no more time to hesitate. The anger that has been simmering for so long erupts, but because she cannot cause a scene in the middle of the event, she chooses a cold path, using the truth like a sharpened blade. The episode could end with Nicole making a decision that paves the way for the episodes to come. Instead of confronting with pure emotion, she begins methodically gathering evidence to reopen the file on the rainy night accident, reaching out to the police or a lawyer, or quietly sending some initial information to an investigative journalist. This choice is not an impulsive gesture, but the result of many layers of internal conflict. She does not only want revenge for the dead, she wants to force Bill to face who he really is, and make Leslie understand that she is not easy prey. At the same time, this decision also carries the potential to blow up all of Fairmont Crest, turning this elegant community into the epicenter of a scandal that could drag on for years. Nicole's anger, therefore, is no longer a purely personal emotion, it becomes the driving force behind a redefinition of the community's moral compass. Leslie, sensing the strange movements around her, will not stay still. The upcoming episode will likely show her activating a backup layer of her scheme, one she has long prepared in case Bill falters or Nicole slips out of her control. By holding secrets not only about the rainy night death but also about the weaknesses of other powerful figures in Fairmont Crest, Leslie builds for herself a dark form of insurance. If she falls, many will fall with her. Knowing this makes her bolder, ready to push Nicole into complete isolation. She might leak selectively edited snippets about Nicole's private life, causing others to question her mental stability and objectivity, or use Bill as a shield, forcing him to publicly defend her in front of the community, making Nicole look like a jealous, unhinged woman acting out of personal vendetta. This is a cruel yet highly effective tactic, because it strikes directly at what Nicole values most, her professional integrity and her ability to be trusted. With all three characters driven into a corner in different ways, the next episode of Beyond the Gates will not simply be a story about a secret from the past, but a broader portrait of how people react when every exit seems blocked. Leslie reacts by biting back harder, turning herself into a hidden director who stands aside to watch Bill and Nicole crumble like pieces on a board she has arranged with precision. Bill reacts by slowly destroying himself, letting guilt dictate every choice until he barely recognizes who he is anymore. Nicole reacts by transforming her pain into a determination to expose the truth, even if that means standing against the two people she once considered allies. It is this contrast in how each of them confronts pressure that will carve deep fissures, not only in their personal relationships, but in the overall power structure of Fairmont Crest. If the writers follow this path, the next episode will mark the beginning of a longer arc in which the rainy night death no longer remains a private secret between Leslie and Bill, but gradually spreads like an oil stain, pulling other characters into its vortex. Friends, colleagues, and partners of Nicole and Bill will be forced to pick sides. Those who once admired Bill may turn away as clues leak out. Residents who thought themselves safe in the polished shell of Fairmont Crest will have to reconsider the true cost of maintaining such a perfect image. Anger, guilt, and betrayal will not stop with the three leads, but will ripple across the entire community, transforming Fairmont Crest from a symbol of stability into a stage where every mask is at risk of shattering. And in the heart of that chaos, Leslie, Bill, and Nicole will be forced to reveal the truest, and perhaps darkest, versions of themselves, opening a brand new chapter for Beyond the Gates where there is no longer room for innocent naivety, only brutal choices between saving oneself or dragging someone else down too. Thank you all for your loyal support.